Back before it was practical to run virtual machines, a lot of manufacturers were creating full-blown x86 PCs on PCI cards. Sun Microsystems had a line of SunPCi cards, and today we're going to try to get one of them working. There's some SunPCi software you run on Solaris, Sun's Unix variant, and you can literally watch that PC on a board post. It's basically the definition of cursed computing. So we'll start with a SunPCi III card, give it a shot in various configurations in a SunFire V240 and a SunFire V440. Might not have a whole ton of luck with that. Then we'll pull out a SunPCi II card, get it installed alongside a video card in that huge SunFire V440, and see if we can't get Windows 98 SE installed on it. Let's get into it. This is a SunPCi III card. It is an x86 PC on a card. Sun had been doing this for a while. I believe the SunPCi III came out in 2004. The one I have here, I bought new old stock in box. I think it was manufactured in 2006. It's got an Athlon CPU inside. It's got 256 megs of RAM. It's got some audio jacks, USB port. I think this is a 10100 1 gig NIC and a VGA port. It's a PC on a card. And it is my mortal enemy. I've seen this thing work exactly once. For just a few seconds, I saw a post screen inside the SunPCi software that we'll get into. That was years ago. I've never seen it do anything good, anything useful since. And I have tried many times over the years. In fact, I even swapped out the CPU. The CPU is not in there, actually. So the last time I messed with this, I just pulled it. Yeah, there's the fan power. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I mangled the socket the last time I did this, as I recall. I have tried for years to get this thing to work. But let's back up. Why would Sun put a PC on a PCI card? Well, I think there was a little bit of hubris involved. A lot of guys were doing this. IBM was doing something similar for the AS400. This is not exactly the same thing, but basically it would look like this. So we got to remember, in the early 2000s, it wasn't entirely practical to run a VM of something. And Windows was eating Sun's lunch, especially by 2006. And so the logical thing is, well, let's just throw the hardware inside the machine, and then they can run Windows on there. So that's what they did. As a quick refresher, Sun predominantly produced machines on the SPARC architecture, such as these SunFires here in the retro rack. Software like Windows cannot run on the SPARC architecture. There's no technical reason a bunch of man hours could be put in to solve that problem, but that was not the state of the industry. So this is a little Ultra SPARC 3i chip that runs in some of those SunFires. Windows won't work on that, and so they made a literal physical PC on a PCI card. I think this is an AMD Athlon XP 2100 Plus, if memory serves. Well, I mean, if there was one in there. When I tried to get this working all those years ago, and there's a couple videos about it actually, I'll link to them down in the description. I showed you already, I could see it post, which was pretty magical to see in Solaris, Sun's Unix that you would run on these SunFires, a window with a PC posting in it. That was really cool for the brief moment I got to experience that. I never tried recapping this thing, but I did all sorts of stuff. I messed with different drivers. I tried this in a different machine, a different SunFire, same result. And on the console, it was always complaining that it was having trouble even interacting with the card at all. Now, there are driver headaches. This thing runs some special software you have to install on the machine. I'll get to that later. But there are theoretical workarounds that a lot of folks have had success with. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe the CPU's bad. So all those years ago, a viewer named Rick sent me in a replacement. I popped that in, and I got the exact same behavior. No behavior change. And then I tried, I think, another CPU that I had scrounged up that was equivalent. And I'm pretty sure I mangled the pins on that connector, which is when I decided I was done with this project. But now I'm back. Let's pull this heatsink off. Take a look. There are these 4 sort of spring-loaded screws on this fancy little heatsink here. It just kind of pops off like that. It did have a thermal pad on it, and I took that off, and I was using thermal paste while I was testing the other CPUs. And there's the little temperature sensor there. The thing is really well constructed. So I bought this new old stock. I was the first person to open this thing up, and so you can imagine how frustrated I was when it worked for 10 seconds. It wasn't cheap either. It was almost like $200 or something. I don't know if I'm going to get it on camera, but this socket style really sucks. So each plastic hole has a metal connector on this side, and I think you start the pins on the left, and you push the whole chip down, and it seats into these little kind of V-shaped connectors. And I mangled some of them for sure. It didn't have anything to do with the failure mode of this thing, but hopefully you can see. That's what a normal one looks like, and that one's looking like a little bent and banged up. I think I injured a couple of these in my experiments. Also, this thing seems built to have the CPU put in exactly once. I do not like this connector style. And the pins on these Athlons, like, they're big and they're thick. Like, usually you're worried about the pins on the actual chip. Not the case with this piece of crap. So I guess I'll revise my statement. It's very well built, except I don't like this socket style. So where am I going with this? Well, this one's not going to work. My current theory, based on all the experiments I've done over the years, is this one has some sort of hardware fault. It's still possible that I have a software/compatibility issue, but given what I've done to this thing, that's not going to do us much good. But I've been collecting all sorts of SunPCi cards over the years. I don't know which one this is. It's early, 1998. The PCi III I was showing you, I think, was the last one, and I think this was the most spec'd out one, which is why I'm annoyed it doesn't work. I believe this is a SunPCi I or II. Haven't tried this one either. I think the SunFires I have are going to be a little too new for this one, but that's an option. And then I've also got another SunPCi III in here. So it would come with documentation. This is going to be confusing because I was confused when I pulled this out. This was the box, I think, that the SunPCi II came in, and for some reason I've put this one in there. So the complete and boxed ones come with the documentation. This is a SunPCi II 2.2.2, lots of 2s. And I'm a little confused because I might have swapped this in here or something. I don't know what this is. Looks an awful lot like the SunPCi III. This video is going really well. Let me go look up the part number on this. See what the hell this is. Okay, the one I was showing you with the bigger heatsink, this is a SunPCi I. There were tons of different variants, I believe, and I have like 3 or 4 more of these somewhere. I can't find them. And this is a SunPCi II. Sun always had cute, like, code names or product names. This is Chimera, and this is the Penguin. You can see right there, model. Chimera. I'm assuming I'm saying that right. So these are a couple of our options, except I don't think I have a machine I can put this in. We might be able to get the SunPCi II working in some SunFires I've got, but I also have another. A while ago, Y2KMan2K over on Serial Port Discord sent me a pile of stuff for the cost of shipping, and I haven't fully unboxed it yet. There was a Sunray 1 stand in here. This guy right here, for very comical reasons, as you'll see. We might end up using these as part of this SunPCi adventure. Got everything out of the box. We got a pretty clean looking socket 7 motherboard. Funnily enough, that is the same socket as the PCi I. We got the Hacker Toolbox 03, 630 megabytes of files. Real 1 player with a sexually suggestive picture of a woman. Gotta have that. Tons of RAM, DDR RAM. If any of this is ECC, it is. Might actually be able to use this in some of the SunFires. Of course, you can't have too many of these. The Linksys Wireless G PCIe MCIA card. Complete in box. Fancy. So huge thanks to Y2KMan2K. But his buddy Dave also threw in this stuff. We'll look at these shortly. I think you're probably kind of guessing what that is. Another SunPCi III. Our goal today is to see if we can't break this one. Maybe install Windows on a SunFire via this PCI card. So some of the other peripherals there were a parallel and serial breakout cable that you could plug into this thing. And I think this was specific to the SunPCi III. I also have one of these because I bought the other one complete in box, but a USB and FireWire card. How many people could have needed this? Takes up another one of your PCI slots, and it's got this ridiculous daughter board situation. Plugs in right here, kind of hops on like that. Pretty wild. Sun called it the Bellerophon daughter board. To recap, I have tried many different things with this one. I've tried it in a SunFire V240, a V440, machines running Solaris 10, machines running Solaris 8. Same failure mode every time. The mangled pins I was talking about, that was on my last little foray. So I was always getting the same experience until I mangled the pins. I don't know what this thing does now. I kind of don't care. Oh, and before you get too excited, this is a solvable problem. So I don't have a desoldering pump, gun. But whenever I get one, what I'd like to do is get a healthy socket, desolder this thing, maybe even give it a recap, do one thing at a time, of course. But yeah, this is a solvable problem. That's why I still have this thing. It's such a shame. It's like literally from the factory smells new, and it worked for 10 seconds. But the plan, this one I got from Dave, we're going to try this one out in a SunFire V240. That V240 is running Solaris 10, as I recall. We'll double check that. I have already installed the SunPCi III 3.2.1 software on there. This is on the Internet Archive. That's why I never bothered archiving it myself. We're not going to need these peripherals. I'm definitely not dealing with this. I suppose we could mess around with this if we found some fun Windowsy thing to do with it. Yeah, I am not optimistic based on my previous experience with these things, but every other YouTuber I've seen do this, it just works for them. So let's try it. Let's try it out. We've got this little utility area with furnaces and stuff, and this is the retro rack. And I've got two Sun Microsystems machines in here. These are SPARC-based machines. I realize if you haven't seen any of my other videos, I kept throwing out the word SunFire, and it probably wasn't making a lot of sense. These are Sun Microsystems SunFire servers, and theoretically, one or more of these are compatible with the SunPCi cards. We're going to be working on this SunFire V240, and I think I'm actually going to bring it in the other room so that I can troubleshoot live in there. And all you can kind of hope for is that you have one that's on a rail kit. So I'll be able to unclip this from his rails and walk it over there. They're pretty heavy. This is probably my favorite Sun Microsystems server I have. It's just so versatile. It's running some Sunray software. We'll be talking about that soon. This is the last machine I tried that SunPCi III on. We're going to try it again with a brand new card here. One problem I'm going to have is my incredible cable management that I've got going on here. So this is a bunch of devices on the RetroRack network. This is the SunFire right here. And I think as I pull it out, all those cables are going to fall down. That'll be a pretty clean insertion, I guess, back when we're coming back with this thing. Okay, I'm going to get it unplugged and get it out of its rail kit, lug it over to the other room. I suppose I'll bring you along. I haven't ever pulled this out, I don't think. I put it in the rail kit, and that was that. So there's going to be some clips I'm going to have to push somewhere, and I'll be able to, take it out of the rail kit. I don't know, because yeah, it's just stuck. I can't remember how to do it. It's usually pretty straightforward. I guess this is a nice time to explain why it's so nice to have a rail kit for these things. I could, if I wanted to. Oh, did I screw that in? Well, anyway, I could pull the lid off. I could put the PCI card in here. The machine comes out past the rack. You can do full maintenance on it. It's really nice. Oh, I cannot remember how you unclip these rails. So it's a multi-rail system. There's one that stays in the rack. There's one that's literally screwed into the machine. And I should be able to unclip them somehow once I figure it out. Maybe it's way back here. Oh, I see. We're going to try it out. There's little levers right here. Yeah, it's going to come now, I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to hit the camera. Oh, we got it. I'm in a precarious position with this camera. Let me turn you off. This old boy hasn't been in here in a while. That's exciting. Got the SunFire V240 on the bench. As I recall, it's not maxed out on RAM, which I think about more often than I'd like to admit. And so maybe some of the RAM that Y2K sent in can solve a problem there. Maybe that's the first thing we'll tackle. To slide it out, you just hit this switch, and then it comes out of the rack, and then you saw that it was kind of getting stuck. Doesn't come the rest of the way out. This was the switch I needed to pull, and there's another one on the other side to actually pull it out of the rack entirely. Every rail kit I've ever seen is different, and this one's got a pretty sophisticated mechanism, so when I pull that little green lever, some engineer had fun with that. A couple things you got to do to pop the lid on these. There's these little latches on either side that you pull, and you gotta love the Sun Microsystems branding they put on these things. One of my favorite parts. And then there's this lid thing here. There we go. And we're in. We've got this CPU air baffle. I bought this thing on eBay years ago, and if I'm remembering correctly, it's in a video, so you can go watch that and correct me if I'm wrong. I powered it up without looking inside, and only one of the CPUs had a fan, I think. Hence this little guy that you see me putting shots occasionally. He's totally dead. Totally fried up, unfortunately. That was a big miss on my part, because then I had to buy this other CPU fan assembly thing. They're pretty impressive little units. I think I bought it from China. I think it was like 50 bucks. At any rate, it's dual CPU, and I do see I am missing one RAM stick here. So let's see what these are. They are 2 gig DDR sticks, ECC of course, so server RAM, 400. I wonder if I have any of these in my latest package. Unfortunately, no. The one stick that would work in here is 1 gig. And I would rather populate it with all 2 gig sticks. This is the one I just pulled out. So the hunt continues. Having a look around this new to me PCI 3, and there's a bunch of gunk in these ports. So I'm going to clean that out. I'll have a better look around, and I think we'll just go for broke, pop it in, power it up, see what happens. I'll tell you what, this USB port was never in use. It was just sucking up dust from whatever server room it was in. Got the SunPCi III card all cleaned up there, and now we need to get it in here. Enterprise machines typically are fairly toolless, and they all come up with their own, all the manufacturers come up with their own ways to make that true. And this one, Sun was particularly clever, as I recall. Yeah. So you've got these little slots depending on the length of your card, and there is supposed to be a little clip thing right here that locks the card in so that it doesn't wobble this way, and man, I don't have it. It's not in this machine for some reason. I've seen it recently. Anyway, we'll forge ahead. This is a pretty long card, so we're gonna have to pull this guy out pretty far, and then let's see if I can pull this off here. Let's just put it in the top slot. Yeah, we're like maxing this thing out. Pull it all the way. Let's see. I've had one in here before, obviously. So that's in, and then you can position this clip to kind of hold it in. So yeah, I won't even need my other clip. I think we're okay. So that's in. Now I have a little bit of a conundrum. The PCI software to actually launch this thing requires a GUI. So you need a mouse and keyboard and a monitor hooked up to the host machine. This is a server. It does not have a video card. As you can see, you typically interact with these things over the serial port management, and optionally you can access that same CLI over a network with one of these, but there's no video card in here. We do have a VGA port on the SunPCi, of course, but that's for whatever operating system we eventually get installed on this thing. Now I do have a video card that I could put in this thing, and of course I can't find it. I'm doing a little bit of a reorg down here, and I just put this shelf in a couple hours ago. Big exciting day for me. And so I'm pulling out all my cards. These all used to just be stacked in there with all the other ones. And somewhere I have a video card that works in that SunFire, and I cannot find it. So I'm going to give this one last look. That video card must be here somewhere. And then I'll tell you about Plan B. These are Plan B. These are Sunray thin clients, and this server just so happens to be running the Sunray server software, which means we can get monitor, mouse, and keyboard on these things, and if they're on the same network as this guy, I can actually see a Solaris GUI, and I can run the SunPCi software. In fact, these clips I'm showing you from all those years ago, those were on Sunrays. I've used this trick before. I think I saw the Vintage Collector had a video putting a SunPCi I in a SunFire V120, and he used the same trick. And I'm also realizing I have a SunPCi I and I have a SunFire V120 if we get really desperate. So I'm gonna get this Sunray 2 hooked up to the monitor and keyboard here. I think we have everything we need. I even got a Sun keyboard. The Sunray is off, waiting for the server to show up on the network. Doesn't look like it, but the serial console of this machine is plugged in to my main machine just to my right. And let's give it power. I don't think it's gonna boot up. Just the power supply is spinning, and we should be able to boot this thing up with the serial port. Something very weird is happening. So I pressed enter. It prompted me with please log in. I typed admin. I didn't type any of this other stuff, and my machine decided to type it. These are the username and passwords of a Nortel BCM1000 that I'm also filming a video about. I haven't typed these things in literally days. Got ghosts in my shop here. It's a USB to serial adapter. I'm gonna pull the USB. That's so weird. All right, pulled the USB adapter, put it back in. Is it gonna behave? There we go. Oh, I was on the password. Okay, now it's being normal. I don't think I can remember my LOM password. This is the lights out management, which should let me manage things like powering the machine on and inspecting some aspects of it. I got it. It's this. I'll change that someday. So what do we got here? We're gonna hit it with power on, and it's not the quietest thing in the world. We'll do some quick troubleshooting in here, and then I'll put it back in the rack. There it goes. If I recall correctly, we are trying to get to yet another prompt. This was the SC prompt for the LOM. We want the OK prompt, which will happen shortly. I better go look at the lights on the back of that PCI card. I forgot, from the LOM I could have typed console, but anyway, it timed out and I'm at the OK prompt. And what we're gonna do is just tell it to boot from the hard drive in there that's running Solaris, and then we'll get into a root terminal in Solaris. The light on the back of the SunPCi card is flashing orange or maybe yellow right now. That might be fine while the machine is booting. This is the same exact problem I had with the other SunPCi card. Hardware reboot, x86 failed to respond. Fudging a MAC address because it can't actually talk to the thing. This gives us a lot of information. Namely that my other one probably wasn't bad. So we're back to square one, which is probably, this is Solaris 10's fault. I am running Solaris 10, of course. I had previously installed the SunPCi software, those disks you saw. And what am I running here? I'm running version 3.2.1. And of course, I already knew this, but it says it contains software for Solaris 7, 8, and 9, which I'm not running. I really didn't think that'd be much of a problem though. So the SunPCi software has a bunch of binaries you can run, one of which is the SunPCi app. We'll run that on the Sunray over there. It just came to life. But I believe you can also try to ask the card for its BIOS version, and this thing can't even interact with the card. You get the same error eventually. Well, earlier I got that same error about fudging a MAC address. Now I'm saying this thing. Just doing some due diligence here. So we've got this SunPCi III driver installed. Then I'm looking at all the PCI devices this thing thinks it knows about. I think this is our card. One last thing, I'm going to look through all the system messages. It includes SunPCi, and I just ran this, which is funny. It has everything I was doing 3 years ago. We might learn something from this once it's done, though. This part's interesting. It's complaining about the system time. I actually saw that live while I was messing with it. That's what these messages are from. And then what did it do? Updated some CMOS data in some file. And then it died, and it failed. I'm going to turn this thing off because I think I might have a lead. But this is what using a Sunray's like. You get full access to a desktop session when you log in. It's great. Remember this thing had 3 PCI slots? 2 of them are 33 megahertz 5-volt slots. One of them is a 33/66 megahertz 3.3 volt slot. This is a pretty new SunPCi card. I wonder if I'm in the wrong slot. Read the docs. It's this one, which the card might not fit. Only the top two have these little clip holders. I don't recall if I tried this. Seems like something I would, though. Oh, there's a clip. There's a little guy right here. I shouldn't have doubted Sun Microsystems. I can't get it in. I definitely didn't try this before. Like, something is physically blocking me from pushing the card this direction. And I'm afraid it's something on the bottom is blocking or something. Theoretically, if not too much is coming off the card, it'll be okay, but I can't get it. It does appear to be keyed correctly. On this bottom slot, the slot has a notch here and a notch here. And it does appear to be notched correctly on the card, and it's just, you know, they're all the same PCI stuff. But yeah, I cannot get it to move. And I'm like stressing things. Afraid I'm going to break that PCI connector. I'm going to carefully experiment a little more. I don't know what I'm getting hung up on. Yeah, I think this setup is just not meant to be. My best bet is getting in that 66 megahertz slot, and physically it's just not going to happen without breaking something. I am wondering, did putting the PCI 3 in one of the slower, higher voltage slots hurt it somehow? I doubt it. That doesn't seem likely, but we're going to forge ahead. I do have the V440. It has a 66 megahertz slot that this will fit into. One issue though, I had already tried this before with the other SunPCi, and I definitely had it in a 66 megahertz slot, and I was definitely getting the same error. That was on Solaris 8. But we will try it again, just for fun. It's running Solaris 10 right now. We'll see if we get any further. I also found my video card, an XVR 600. I don't know why I couldn't find it the other night. So let me clean all this up and we'll go in the other room. As you can no doubt tell, this machine is a little more serious than the V240. But we do have three 66 megahertz slots here, and they're really in a funny order. So that one's 33, 33, 66, 33, 66, and then 66. So there's a 33 right in the middle. I'm gonna go review that footage again. Did I accidentally have it right there? Also, my clock battery's falling out. What's up with that? Nah, I had it in a 66 megahertz slot. I had it in this one right here. I don't remember if I played around with different slots, but let's throw it in this one today. And this does fit. There's little guides at the back. And this card absolutely maxes out, even this very large chassis. It's a big card. But it's in. So we'll get the very heavy lid back on. Get this monster fired up. The V440 is up and healthy. It's also running Solaris 10. And of course it doesn't know anything about the SunPCi card. We need to get the software on there. A few ways to do this. I could mount an ISO on NFS share somewhere. I think that's how I've done it in the past. But for good luck, we are going to break the seal on this copy that came with my original SunPCi III. I'm not feeling hopeful about any of this, by the way. I'm like a SunPCi III murderer. That V440 has a CD-ROM or DVD-ROM on the front. I'm going to pop this in. Just kidding. The disk drive is broken on this one, apparently. Doesn't open up. I'm stealing this one. Yes, I know there are other ways to do this, but I'm just having fun. Trying to have fun anyway. Swap the drives, boot it back up, put the PCI drivers in there, and what we're going to do is use the package add command and point it at the CD-ROM. And hopefully this will present us with any packages we can install, and yes, we're just going to install the 321 app drivers, whatever you want to call it. It's just asking for confirmation. Getting all our binaries and some other stuff. It's going to town. Installation has failed. Cannot find driver file. SunPCi driver.2100. This might be okay. Let me go Google this. I might have had to deal with this before. Right, this is a reasonably well-known thing in the SunPCi world on Solaris 10. This guy is back in 2004 hitting this exact same error. We need to set up some symlinks. So we just installed a package that ultimately gets called SunW SPCi III. SunW is what all of Sun's packages are prefixed with. So this means it's Sun provided software. And there's this driver Solaris folder And we do have one of these SunPCi driver.80. Maybe I'll Google it. I don't know what the 270, 280, 290 means. This guy's saying do it with the 280. He didn't try 290. I'm going to read some more posts. I think these numbers are kernel versions. And so I'm on kernel 2100. I believe that's what this is trying to tell me. Or I should say 2100 maybe. And I think I want to use the newest one, 290. So let's get that happening. Made some notes for myself. So we'll try this. Success. Try this. Obviously that's going to work. Now let's figure out what to do next. It was also complaining that it cannot open file etc master. Let's go research that. This is promising. I'm reading some document on Oracle's website about updating a SunPCi III card configuration. And it says I can just remove etc master. I don't have one of those. And then I run this SunPCi load command, which happens to be in the folder I'm sitting in. Not feeling confident. SunPCi load. Place your bets. Same problem. x86 failed to respond. Oh. Shut down the operating system. The machine's still powered on. I'm basically going to configure its BIOS. You can think of it that way. And I'm going to do a set defaults. This is basically going to clear out any BIOS settings in the machine. And then I think it's reset all. This is going to power cycle all the components. And maybe that will make a difference. We'll see. No good. x86 failed to respond. I think we got to install Solaris 9 on this puppy. Here's the plan. I have never actually successfully installed Solaris 9. I think all my attempts were over something Sun calls a jumpstart server. So you basically install it over the net. I'm going to burn a DVD of this Solaris 9 disk from the Internet Archive. It's pretty early, 02. They obviously came out with updates and stuff over time, updates to the OS. That might come back to bite us later. I'm not sure. Let me get this burnt, and I'll talk you through the hard drive situation. That SunFire V440 has all 4 drive bays populated. And those drives are in a ZFS pool, and that's how Solaris 10 was installed. What I'm going to do is pull those 4 drives out and label them, though I'm not entirely attached to that install of Solaris. This, hopefully, if we succeed and get Solaris 9 on, that'll be actually more useful for me. But we're going to pop this one in. It's a Seagate Cheetah Ultra 3 SCSI drive. Not entirely sure how big it is. We'll find out. It's got the Sun sled on there. And then we will put the DVD-ROM of Solaris 9 in the drive and install it to this disk. And if I ever need to revert back to my Solaris 10 install, I can just pop those drives back in and no problem. So let's get all these out. This is slot 0, I believe. And again, I'm not particularly attached to this install. Let me start labeling them, actually. So if Solaris 9 goes well, I might just repurpose these drives anyway. 2 and 3. So now I know where each of these came from, and I can safely stow them away. And we'll get our fresh drive in. I don't know how big it is, like I was saying. I don't even know if it works, but it probably already has a copy of Solaris on it from prior adventures. So, booting this V440 back up. So I was in something called the LOM, or the Lights Out Manager. That was up here. I logged into this. So when you plug in the machine, there's basically a computer inside the computer. And you can interact with it over the serial management port or the network if you set that up. I don't know that I've ever done that. That could be a fun video. And you have basic commands. I usually use power on to turn the machine on remotely. And I can hear it ripping up in there. If you thought that V240 was loud, this thing is easily 2 to 3 times louder. It's sort of incredible. So it saw those disks have been removed. And I think I labeled them wrong because I put that disk in the top slot. I thought that was slot 0, but it's complaining that 0 through 2 are missing. So now it is initting memory. There's sort of layers to this. The LOM, like I was saying, is sort of a computer inside the computer. And you can power on the machine, and you ultimately get to something called the OK prompt, or the Open Boot PROM. And that's sort of the BIOS of these machines. And because we reset all the settings in the BIOS, basically, it's probably trying to boot from whatever disk it can find. And think it's having trouble. I've never seen an interrupt cross call. I don't recall PLL reset. It's doing some tests. Oh, and because I reset all my settings, it's going to do really extensive boot up tests. So we're going to turn all that crap off. I'll show you that in a second. It is still going minutes later. It does very extensive tests by default, and it's a shame. I can't remember if I can actually turn this off in the LOM before I boot the machine up. Let me know. But we'll have to wait through this at least once, and then I'll show you the commands that I like to run on my SunFires. It's finally done, and like I was saying, it did indeed try to boot from the default device, which is the network. And the way I like to configure these things, when I power them on and get to this OK prompt, I want to be in control of when it boots. And so you do setenv auto boot false. That's our first thing we're going to do. And now what happens is when I power it up and get into the OK prompt, it's not going to try to auto boot to anything. And the next thing we're going to do is setenv diag switch false. That's going to lower the diagnostics intensity. And then I can't remember if you actually have to do this, but I'm also going to set the diag level to minimum so that we don't have to deal with that again. So let's do a probe SCSI all. This is going to go look at all the SCSI devices and tell us about them. And it sees our drive that is sitting in there. That is good. So I am going to put the Solaris DVD-ROM that I just burned in the disk, and I'll show you how to install Solaris on this thing, assuming it works. DVD-ROM's in there, and so we're going to say boot CD-ROM a dash and say install. And it's going to go off and try to find the device it thinks has been aliased to the name CD-ROM, which this is looking right to me. An IDE CD-ROM sitting somewhere in the device hierarchy. And we're already off to a really bad start. Shouldn't usually have to deal with something like this. Let me go Google this. This is a 64-bit machine, and I'll bet I just burnt a copy of Solaris for a 32-bit machine. Let's go find another one. Solaris 9 supported 64-bit, of course. That ISO I found might have just been weird, or I burnt it wrong. I found a more promising one that I'm going to burn. Another theoretical Solaris 9 ISO is in there. Let's try boot CD-ROM install again. You know, we're getting closer. The file just loaded does not appear to be executable. Short disk read. Check it out. I finally found an ISO of Solaris 9 that it's willing to boot from. I think what was hanging me up is my machine is too new. I was using a bunch of ISOs that were from right when Solaris 9 came out, 02-ish. So I finally found the last version of Solaris 9 in this random blog post from 2019 of someone trying to run Solaris 9, aka 5.9, in a VM on Linux on an x86 machine, 64-bit x86 machine. So they're going through, I'm sure this is like a fascinating journey if you're into such things. And then apparently their buddy Ron is just hosting the last ISO of Solaris 9 that was produced. Right, so Solaris 9 was released May 28th, 2002. Those were the ISOs I was trying to use, really early versions, and they didn't support my SunFire V440, I think. Those were those errors we were getting, and I was sort of getting confused, thinking like, did I not have a 64-bit version? And even as I told you that didn't add up because they always shipped both. Anyway, as you can see, the last version was Solaris 9 9/05. And I believe that is what I'm booting into now. For some reason, this has stumped me in the past. There's not as many versions of Solaris 9 on the archive or generally available versus 7 and 8 and 10. You can get all the different versions of those that you could ever dream of. This is good. This is promising. Running through the installation, and I've never done it this way before. I think they called it Web Start. Welcome to Web Start Solaris command line installation. Do we want that? We're going to go for it. I'm in the Americas, United States. Yeah, it's been similar to this in the past, but I've never seen it quite like this. Mountain time. That time is close enough. The root password is my wife's name, 123. That's critical. I'm trying to standardize on that. Dude, this is nice. This is like way better than the normal Solaris stuff, even with Solaris 10. So right off the bat, it tried to look for a jumpstart directory. So it's trying to do some at the very minimum, configuration over the network with like a jumpstart server to decide what to do. And I told it to just do it interactively. And it says it's going to assist me. Press enter to continue. It's very important that the exclamation mark exists. Okay, now I'm getting nervous. I've never installed Solaris this way before. Why does it not know that we are installing from the DVD-ROM already? I'm very nervous. Hopefully this is okay. Well, I've just never seen this before. Learning new things. No disks found. It says check to make sure disks are cabled and powered up. Press OK to exit. I'll press enter to continue. Oh no. Is this the LOM? Oh no, this is a single user mode or whatever. Yeah. This can happen. Those disks, the drive bays, are pretty notorious for not connecting properly, even though ProbSCSI saw it. I might even try a different disk, and I will do this whole thing over again, and I'll be back. I made a critical error. I halted out of the installer prompt, and I probably could have formatted and labeled the drive there. So let me catch you up, because while I was troubleshooting this, I was rambling way too much. I restarted the Solaris installer, got back to the prompt. The format command could see that a drive was there, but it couldn't do anything with it. It couldn't auto-detect the type. It wanted me to tell it about the drive geometry, cylinders, stuff like that. You don't typically have to do that with these machines. So I took that drive out, put another drive in, and now I'm getting back into the Solaris installer. While we wait for that to boot, I'll tell you why this probably didn't work the first time. This drive over here is an Ultra 3 SCSI drive. That V440 wants Ultra 320 SCSI drives. That's what I've got in the machine now, very similar to this one. Ultra 320, not to be confused with Ultra 3. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The whole SCSI branding and connector ecosystem, very confusing. Did get the no disks found again, but that shouldn't be a problem. I think this drive was used in like a Windows or a Linux environment or something. So let's do format again and see if it detects that drive. And it does, and you can see already we're in better shape. It knows a lot more information about this drive than it did about the other one. Label it now. I think it's yes. Did we do it? Label. Yes. I think that's all we had to do. We'll see if that was enough. I think you can restart the installer with Sun install. So you don't have to like reboot the machine and all that. Solaris installation probably. 1 second. I just restarted the whole thing. Exciting progress though. You can see we're on this configuring dev and devices. We just got past hardware watchdog enabled. When I booted up the first time with that drive, it was complaining about corrupt label, magic number is missing. That's a telltale sign you need to get into the format command and run label on these Sun machines. So we should have a drive that the installer can detect properly once we get in there. It'll take a few more minutes, it's pretty slow. At this point, I should have just jump-started it. With the jumpstart server, you can automate all this away with a sophisticated enough setup. I haven't actually done a headless jumpstart before. I always jumpstart it just enough to get me the ISO over the network, and then I do this by hand, but now I'm really realizing that I should probably get a little more sophisticated with my jumpstart setup. It clearly saw the disk. I just accepted a license, and we are getting into an actual software install here. It is a 48-ish gig disk. No, it's not. This always confused me with the Solaris installs. This is like a 148 gig disk or something like that. It gives very little room for the root file system. So you start installing stuff and you run out of space real quick. And it gives everything to your home directory. I don't know if that's like historical, because typically the a server itself wouldn't have much on it and everyone would be storing stuff in their home directory, like a multi-user Unix style setup or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm really bad at editing that, so we're just going to roll with it for now. We are going to get the Java Enterprise System though. It's going to take 1.6 of my precious gigs. I think it basically calculates like all the space it needs for just your install. I don't know. What I'm saying is we probably won't even have room for the SunPCi drivers. We're getting there. After about 20 minutes, we're at 25%. I know this looks a little confusing. I did press return right here, because after 5 minutes, nothing had happened. I don't know where this Control-C came from. I did not input that. Hopefully that was an accidental paste from my clipboard on my part. Wouldn't it be great if it finishes and then I exit out somehow? That'd be wonderful. Anyway, by my calculation, in an hour, I'll be back, and hopefully we'll have Solaris 9. In the meantime, I'm going to go on a little rant. I'm editing this very video you're watching. And if you want to blur a clip in Premiere Pro, Adobe Premiere Pro, use the Gaussian blur effect. So let's go to a clip and let's drag that out. So I just updated from a release in 2025. I don't know which one to the... Actually, I updated to the latest 2026 release, and it was laggy and shitty and could barely work for more than 10 minutes. So I went on a Reddit post, and some guy was like, yeah, downgrade 2 minor versions. And so I did that, and now everything's working perfectly. That's not even the point of my rant, though. So they released this nice setting called Surprise Me. Yeah, I'm not surprised that it sucks. Like, what? In what world would I want a Surprise Me button on the Gaussian blur effect? Is there some KPI where, like, hey, some PM's like, not enough users are using the Gaussian blur? Anyway, I worked for Adobe for a very long time. I worked for Adobe for a decade. Not on Premiere Pro, though now that I think about it, I did have access to the Premiere Pro source code. And I did read through it one time. I don't have access anymore. And I know what you're going to say, you know, F Adobe, why are you using Adobe? Well, I'm obviously a little biased. And also it's like, I already know how to use these tools. I was stealing Photoshop when I was 10. Like, it is what it is. And when it works really well, and it can do everything I need. But these little, like, what is this? Something very bad has happened. So about an hour and 10 minutes after I started the install, it said it was done, and then it restarted, which is normal, and then it tried to boot from the disk, also fine, and it's having a lot of problems. Fatal error from F6. That's not good. I'm going to type in my root password. This is not good. I'm going to restart it and hope for the best here. We're doing some advanced Sun stuff here, so I had to go to the LOM, issue a break to get out of this crap. And now I'm back at the OK prompt. I'm going to boot the CD-ROM into single user mode, which should theoretically give me a Solaris console where I can examine the disk and kind of do a little forensics, see what happened. We'll see what's going on with that disk. Maybe I need a new disk, maybe needed to format it better, I'm not sure. Remember how I said I really hope I didn't hit Control-C in the terminal? Well, it turns out I did exactly that. I'm in single user mode from the install media. The install itself on the disk is totally hosed. Very few commands exist. I've mounted the disk and I'm looking at the install log, and right there, installation of SunWCSL was terminated due to user request. That user being me. I could probably rename this video to Bumbling Idiot Installs Solaris. So yeah, that's going to be a problem. I think what I'm going to do is wipe my install partition entirely. Something to that effect. Yes, I want a brand new file system. Okay, so I'll let this thing finish up, and then we'll try the Sun install command again. See if we have any luck this time. It's done, that was quick. Let's try Sun install. What? Just kidding. We will restart from the OK prompt in install mode. This is going so well. These SunPCis are cursed. I cannot count how many times I have successfully installed Solaris, but not today. Boot CD-ROM in install mode. We'll do this whole thing over again. We are cruising along. I have managed to not hit Control-C this time. I'm going to leave this thing alone. Go mow my lawn or something. To be completely honest with you, I have very low hopes that Solaris 9 is going to solve our problem, at least with regards to the SunPCi III, because I've already tried Solaris 8 in that V440, same failure mode you saw before. I've tried Solaris 10 in that V440, same failure mode. Also, obviously, we tried Solaris 10 in the V240, didn't work. I'm most suspicious because I've already tried Solaris 8. And now, we'll try Solaris 9, we'll get the drivers installed, see if this SunPCi works well. The other one, this one doesn't have a CPU anymore. But the backup plan is if the SunPCi III doesn't work, I've got the SunPCi II over here. So we'll get that plugged in, get these installed. Hopefully we can get some signs of life out of one of these. We just hit 100%. I'm a little suspicious. It appears to start at -1%. The other install did that as well. I don't know if they're just using that for spacing for this little ASCII art progress indicator thing, but we'll see. It booted from the disk this time. It's looking at the Solaris 9 software supplement CD. We got Java 3D. We got OpenGL. What else could a man want? Maybe for my V440 to qualify its own domain name. It's installing all sorts of crap. I hope it calculated its space requirements correctly. This is a big win for us. It doesn't know where to get the Java Enterprise System. I will be skipping that. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like something I would make an entire video about, so let me know if you're interested in that. Let me guess. I'm going to need that for the SunPCi drivers or something. Lawn. Mode. Solaris 9. Installed. Only took me a few tries. Let's get the SunPCi III 1 drivers in here. My favorite thing about having the rails is using the machine as a work surface. So satisfying. Here we go. So far so good. Just install the base drivers. Here we go again. And approximately no one is surprised. We get hardware reboot x86 failed to respond. However, the installation was successful. I believe this is what I experienced on Solaris 8. Have I destroyed these SunPCi III cards? Like, I don't get it. Time for the SunPCi II, I guess. Just for due diligence, I am going to reboot with -R. This tells the machine to assess all the hardware that is connected to it and see if there's something new it should look at. I kind of just assumed the installer would have done this the first time. I don't really think this is going to work, but just in case. That didn't work. Not very surprised. Out with the new, in with the old, I suppose. I think technically this machine, I need to reassess the documentation, is not supported. Of course it's stuck now. Oh man. Cursed, I tell you. It's literally stuck. Oh man. Why? I got it. Okay. Put the SunPCi II in. What I was getting at is, I don't know that these machines I'm trying this in are officially supported by any of these SunPCis. I'll have to go read the documentation again, but I can't imagine that would be enough to ruin them. So I'm starting to feel like something I'm doing is breaking these cards. This isn't hot at all. And on my other one, I didn't test it explicitly on this one, but on my other one, I definitely made sure the fan was working and everything. Yeah, this thing isn't even hot. Maybe these have like a really bad capacitor problem and you just need to recap them. Maybe there's some known failure mode on these cards I don't know about, but we've got the SunPCi II in here. I believe this was sold to me as working on eBay, or at least pulled from a working environment. That's all you can really hope for. You can't really blame the eBay seller when this old stuff may or may not work. So I'm going to get the SunPCi 2.2.2 drivers in this thing, and I'm going to have to power it up before I can pull the old disk out. Doing a little more research on Sun's website from 2005. And SunPCi 2.3.1 is when they started supporting Solaris 9. So my 2.2.2 disk, I don't think it's going to do it for us. Is there any chance that this download got archived? No, of course. Okay. 8 years ago on the Solaris subreddit, someone was looking for this exact version and they found an archive of them. Shout out to this guy 9 months ago who's saying, "You just saved me." Also, shout out to the original poster from 8 years ago for responding. Hell yeah. Here we go. This almost makes me think we take a look at the SunPCi III. Nope. If PCI 2 works, I'm good. Taking a look at what was in that PCI 2 tarball from that archive. And if I look at package info, it is the version I want, 2.3.2. Oh, remember Chimera? And it supports Solaris 7, 8, and 9. So this isn't an ISO. I could turn it into an ISO. We got to get this thing on the SunFire V440. We might as well just turn this into a Sun Microsystems video. That SunFire V440 has two built-in network interfaces. As far as Solaris is concerned, the one on the left, port 0, is called CE0. But if we do an ifconfig all, we don't see anything about those ports. Classic Solaris conundrum if you're coming from the Linux world. We first have to plumb CE0. Okay. Then we are going to give CE0 an IP. The RetroRack network, which it's plugged into, is a 10.0.0 network. We'll give it a net mask and we'll tell it to go up. Okay, let's see if we can see it now. We can. Now, this is not a permanent change. If I restart the machine, it's going to lose all these settings. I will leave it up to you, the viewer, to do your own research about how to persist these. I can't tell you everything. So now we're on this VM that I call Worker 3, and it's on the same network as the V440 now. In fact, we should test that. Let's see if we can ping the V440. And we can. This little guy is a VM in my Proxmox instance in my home lab network that has access to my home network and the RetroRack network. Yes, I know, I'm way out of date.
How about that little fella?
Oh, that little guy. I wouldn't worry about that little guy.
Good old Worker 3 is hosting an FTP server. So if we do an ls for Sun, we can see we've got our little tarball we need with all our drivers on it. So we're going to FTP to Worker 3. Its IP is 10.0.0.102. And I believe I set up anonymous access. So you just do anonymous, no password. I think we're in. We can do an ls. And there is our tarball. So we will tell the FTP client to get that thing. And here it goes. I would have expected it to be faster. Okay, we're cool. We're cool. We're cool. And then you tell the FTP client bye. And it says goodbye. And now we have the tarball on the V440. We're cruising. And now we simply have to untar our tarball. There's a very famous XKCD comic about this. It's no small feat. But the command is tape archive extract files from this thing. And there we go. Now if we ls, we should have a directory. Yes, we do have a directory. Let's see what's going on in there. There's all our stuff. If you're wondering why you see this bash-205, it's because Solaris shipped with the C shell by default. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just really bad at using it. And of course, it was created by Bill Joy, one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems in 1982. So yeah, if you're like me and you were born after 1982, I was still born in the 80s. A pro tip when you're using these SunFires and Solaris is just go to bash. Thank me later. And so finally, we are going to do a package add, and we're going to say the device you're looking for is this folder right here, where we are, and install this thing. It recognizes it. I'm saying yes. And off it goes. Again, no promises. These SunPCis are cursed. Everything was successful. How do we validate this? So of course we need to get into the SunPCi software to be able to interact with this thing. But I found an option on the SunPCi flash command, -L. If we run that, it says there is one card installed. We've gotten further than we've ever gotten. We definitely didn't get any errors, that's for sure. So let's get a video card in that machine. This is an XVR 600. It is the only video card I have that will work in those SunFires. And my plan is I was going to get it on my KVM, meaning I can plug in one of these SIPs or server interface pods into the card and USB into the machine, and in here on a monitor I could see it. However, I only have VGA server interface pods. This card is DVI and S-Video. Actually, that is not S-Video. It's like some sort of eyeglasses slot. Probably for doing some sort of CAD work or something. I don't know, 3D glasses? I don't know. Things were wild back then. So I thought I had a DVI to VGA, but I don't. I have this DVI to HDMI, which actually works really well. But it's not going to help us here. So unfortunately, at least at first, I'm going to have to set up a monitor in there on the machine, and we can interact with it that way over this video card, assuming everything still works. I haven't used this in a couple years. And we'll have to use that to use the SunPCi software and install Windows. But once you get that installed, The SunPCi cards themselves have VGA and USB on the back for mouse and keyboard. That other one might be PS2, I can't remember, but that's not a problem because I've got the KVM adapters with the PS2 in case I need it. So eventually, if we get Windows installed on one of these cards, we'll be able to use the KVM in here and use that OS. Let's go put this in the machine. Got the video card in there, and I'm going to get the lid on here and I'll show you the setup. Check out my new desk. It's going to be a little hard to use the mouse. I'm going to get all this fired up. It works. If you've never seen a video card on a SunFire, this is the experience. Got the OK prompt. It's funny, I was sitting at the serial prompt in the other room like an idiot, and then I remembered that it probably was directing its output here. You can configure it to only go to the serial remote terminal, but it's going here at the moment, which is fine. It's a really nice picture. So I'm going to boot this up, and we might not get a GUI environment. I'm going to get everything set up, and then hopefully we can launch the software, and I'm going to overlay a voiceover because it's just way too loud in here to be recording. I don't know why, but I always think it's pretty cool to see the boot up process coming out of a video card. Now, if you had used Suns back in the day, the workstations, this isn't going to surprise you, but my main interaction with Sun equipment is the servers. And so I rarely ever have a video card in these things, so it's kind of a treat. So the machine is up and I can log in, but obviously this is not a graphical user interface. We've got some more work to do. So I haven't done this in a while, so it might take me a few attempts, but we want to get into CDE, the desktop environment that shipped with Solaris. So this command here is going to make it so that next time we boot, that will start automatically. And I think this command is going to boot into the graphical environment right away and let us log in. Maybe, maybe not. I think we've got some problems. You see that message at boot up that says can't find driver for console frame buffer? I think we're having some video card driver issues. To troubleshoot, we're going to bring the console output back over the serial port to me here. So I can't interact with the thing at all once it gets into the OK prompt. And we're going to get into the LOM, and I believe we can set some stuff here. Looking at all the system console or LOM variables here. Maybe we won't be able to do it from here. I think I have to go type it in on the terminal in there. Basically, I'm going to type setemv input device, the serial port, and setemv output device, also the serial port, and then I'm going to issue a reset all, and we should start getting some action over here, and I think the screen will go blank. So I'm printing out the values of input and output device, and it's keyboard and screen, meaning the physical keyboard and monitor plugged into this machine are getting the console output. So I'm going to set both of those back to my serial management port, tell it to reset, and the screen goes black. Back over here, we're back in action. So I'm going to tell that thing to boot again, and then we'll root around in some error logs, or some sort of logs hopefully, that tell us what it thinks about that video card. I have done a boot-R before. Same problem, it's complaining about the frame buffer drivers. Don't like these SunPCi errors coming from logging it. Don't like that one bit, but doesn't matter until we get a video card on this thing. You know what? I feel like I've done this before. I've gone down this road. I don't know if I filmed it. It's funny. What seems like probably no time for you could be years for me. So I'll go embark upon a project like this, and slowly I'll start to remember, hey, I've done this before. I'm looking at the XVR 600 documentation, and there's definitely some packages we're going to need. I'm going to go off and see if all of these are installed, and it sounds like if they're not, we might be able to find them, or maybe I've already downloaded them and I have them floating around somewhere. Yeah, so I'm going to do a quick search of the packages I have, and they all have this JFB in the middle, so we should be able to grep for that. So I'm going to do a package info, which lists out all the packages that are installed, and I'm going to grep for JFB, and we've got exactly one of them, which are the manuals for some reason. Those come by default from the Solaris 9 installer. All right, we got to find a bunch of other ones. All these guys. Wouldn't you know it, the Internet Archive strikes again. I donate every year to the Internet Archive, and so should you. Downloaded the ISO from the archive, and for once in my life, I'm tired of burning these things to real physical media. So we're going to use our FTP trick I showed you earlier, and we're going to grab that ISO. This will take a moment.
Goodbye.
We have the ISO, and now we need to mount it and make it usable for us on Solaris. Check this out. Step 1, somewhere to mount it. Let's call it XVR. Step 2, Lofi admin. It has given us a loopback device here. And finally, we will mount it. Oh, I copied my notes from before. Last time I did this. XVR. Huh. If we go in there. Yes. I believe the documentation said to run install. Oh yeah. Let's go. Install my software. Yes. Could it be this easy? Oh, you're done? That's it? Let's do that. Grep again. Oh yeah. We've got everything. What do we do now? I think we reboot. Shut this thing down. Go look at what that monitor's doing. Things still aren't going great. So I'm running the FB, I think it stands for frame buffer config. And I'm trying to see all the configured frame buffers, aka video cards. And it says it cannot read that. This is not what this video is about. I'm going to go figure this out. I know I say that every time, but I'll be back if something interesting happens. I think I'm getting somewhere. So here you can see, now when I run FB config list, it sees this JFB thing, meaning it believes there is a frame buffer, aka a video card, attached. So remember I already had the documentation package? That came at install time and had a specific patch that was required for this to work on Solaris 9. And you can see on the install media, there is a patch for all these packages that is required. I am not a Solaris administrator, but I believe what was happening was a newer version of the patch was tied to this manual stuff that came from my Solaris install media. And then none of these had the patch, and I was not able to actually install or remove that old patch. I'm not going to explain this very well because I don't understand it very well. What I did was I ran the uninstall script from the XVR 600 driver disk, and that went fine. So here is me removing everything, and then I'm checking if anything's installed. Nothing is. And then I ran the install again, and this time it prompted me for installing the patch it thinks it needs. And now I think I have the card installed. I'm going to shut down and restart again, and we'll see. It took a fair amount of DT login finagling, but I started DT login with daemon mode, and it says it's starting the desktop on display 0, which I believe is in the other room. And then it's saying it will resume after I exit this console session. So I exited this console session here, and it says resuming desktop login. And finally we have the CDE Solaris 9 login prompt. Let's get in here. The mouse is like unusable. All right, had to totally switch up the mouse situation. That laser USB mouse was totally unusable. Cursor was all over the place. So I've got this PS2 mouse going into a USB converter, and it is much better. It behaves perfectly normal. And it is so hot in here. It must be over 80 degrees Fahrenheit in here. This V440 has been running for a few hours, and it throws off so much heat. This is the moment of truth, the first run of the SunPCi application. And it looks like it's up. It's asking me to create my first emulated disk. Okay, I got it going off creating an emulated 10 gig disk. You don't need real hard drives attached to this thing, of course. The SunPCi software creates like a disk image that gets attached to the OS install running on the SunPCi. It takes me a long time to figure out what's going on with this high contrast mode thing going on. I'll explain it later, but we do see the thing posting. It is healthy. This is about as far as I've ever gotten. And now it's asking me to install Windows 98. That was a preset I chose when I created the emulated disk. So we should be able to put the Windows 98 SE disk in the CD-ROM. Got Old Faithful here, the Windows 98 SE disk. It's incredibly scratched. It's been around forever. So we'll see how we do. And the CD-ROM drive is not opening. I was able to manually eject it with this piece of telephone wire. And the light was blinking, so it's active. I think the SunPCi software was like holding on to it somehow and not letting it eject. I'm not sure. So now I'm going to tell it to retry the auto install, and it just gets stuck on this screen. I think it can't see the CD-ROM. Pretty sure we're having trouble getting that CD-ROM attached. Look what's going on with this. So you scroll your mouse into the SunPCi window, and then Solaris goes into this like high contrast mode, and you can see the SunPCi output, and when you take your mouse out, you can't. Like, what? All right, I'm going to go figure out what this CD-ROM issue is about, but it's absolutely fascinating to see this thing running because it's got a full-blown BIOS. I mean, it's an actual PC on that card. I don't know why it's so interesting, but it's so weird to see the BIOS running in this window in CDE on Solaris 9. Remember how I said the blue disk here with Windows 98 is really scratched and crappy? Well, watch this. It recognizes that healthy disk just fine. The mice cursors are a little off. I think this is a known problem. We'll be able to deal with this. I cannot believe I'm looking at the Windows 98 installer. It's like insanely fast. I guess it's because it's got that Ultra 320 SCSI emulated disk. Wonder how long this is going to take. It took less than 10 minutes to get to the point where Windows 98 needed to do its first restart, but now I can't get it to continue from what it's laid down on the disk the way you would with a normal install. The Sun auto install stuff is taken over, so I got to read some docs. Let me catch you up. The first few emulated drives I made, I was auto-selecting Windows 98. They give you a list of all these Windows installs. You don't want to do that. Just choose Dr. DOS bootable disk. So I read this how-to on a website called ZXNet. It's about the SunPCi I, but everything in here applied to my SunPCi II, and it's actually pretty interesting. So you do the basic, like Dr. DOS. They call it Caldera Open DOS. I think I saw it said Caldera when my Dr. DOS disk started up. And this is the key insight. The SunPCi does a bunch of auto mapping to DOS drives for you. And R gets you the Solaris file system. So in R CD-ROM, CD-ROM 0, I was able to start the Windows 98 installer from DOS. No problem. And when it was ready to restart, also no problem. So during all the restart phases, everything was fine. And now I have Windows 98 installed on the SunPCi II. But apparently, the SunPCi also mounts all the drivers you need in the F drive. So we're going to try that out now. And sure enough, Windows does see an F drive. We'll go into Drivers, Win98, and Setup. And we get a SunPCi setup installer and everything. I'm going to cruise through this. Restarted, got all the drivers installed, and it's not going to come across on this terrible capture of the screen, but it's definitely snappier, and we've got higher resolutions we can choose. Looking good. I want to get the VGA port on the SunPCi II itself working, so I can hook a KVM up to it. And if you're paying close attention, when I installed the SunPCi drivers, that was an option. Well, I just had to start up the driver installation again. I could choose external monitor. Then, when you're booting up the SunPCi software with the disk image, you pass it -VGA. It'll tell you it's routing to the external monitor. And here is the VGA output direct from the card. This monitor has multiple inputs. One is the DVI, and this, what you're looking at here, is the VGA output straight from the card. So I think we're ready to get one of these KVM SIP modules plugged in. I just double checked, and the SunPCi II does have a USB on the back. I think Windows 98 SE will be okay with that, along with the VGA. I'm going to go get this hooked up to the back of the card. And for reference, this is my KVM. And I got a bunch of Cat5 lines going to the server room, and these plug in on the other end. And I'll be able to access them in here on this mouse and keyboard. Got it hooked up. This is the KVM interface. I named that SIP SunPCi II, but we got sort of a problem. The video looks really good, but no input. I suspect the USB keyboard over in the other room is still active. I'll see what I can do about this. I just went in the other room and pressed enter, and nothing happened here. This is going to be relatively risky, but I think I'm going to hard reset the Windows 98 install. It's not going to like that, but we'll see what happens. So I just hard reset it, obviously, and this monitor is not liking what it's seeing. Let's see if I can do something about this. Maybe it will auto adjust. That's a little better. This will be interesting. USB human interface device. That's me. Come on. We're so close. Haha, I did not have this window selected the last time I tried this. I just hit enter, and you can see we've advanced. So I'm going to walk back in the other room. I think enter is what I want here. This is me blindly pressing the keyboard in the other room. I think I could solve this by putting the video back on the terminal in the other room, but we'll just see how it goes. Okay, I've done like 5 of these already. I'm going to plug the VGA monitor back in the other room. I'm going to wrap this up. I'll be back. Got all the drivers installed. We're back on the KVM, and look at this. A mouse. This is like super snappy. I'm impressed. Can we type? We can. Yes, we can type. This is great. What this means in practice is I can put the V440 back in the rack, no monitor attached. I guess I'm not actually sure about this, but I'm pretty sure from the command line I can run this command here with the VGA, and then over the KVM, this thing will boot up, and I can use it. We made it this far. Let's give it a shot. The V440 is back in its correct configuration. I'm logged in over the terminal, and I'm going to run SunPCi with my Windows 98 disk image, VGA mode. I sort of intuitively don't think this is going to work because it has to launch a visual application. Can't open display exiting. Yeah. I wonder if there's a way, because I have a video card, to somehow interact with that from here. That'll be something for the future, I think. Actually, all these headaches are solved when I get a KVM adapter that does DVI, or I get a DVI to VGA adapter. Then I can do everything I want over the KVM. That's probably what I'll do next. Well, that was an experience. A lot of the headaches were me being stupid with the Solaris 9 and the video card driver install, but truth be told, it was pretty straightforward to get the SunPCi II working, which was a relief because those SunPCi IIIs have been making me feel like an absolute moron for multiple years. I don't know what's going on with those. On the one hand, it's encouraging that both of them have the same, x86 hardware failure log. That sort of points to external factors maybe causing that. The hardware I'm putting them in, software, of course. But the one thing that gives me pause is I saw one of them work one time with the exact same setup I tried in this video. So that is not a good thing, I think. But next steps, I'll figure out a way to get my KVM hooked up to that DVI card, and then I'll be able to fully remotely launch the Windows 98 machine, use the SunFire V440 in here, so I don't have to have a monitor in the server room and have that thing roaring at me while I'm using it. I hope you enjoyed following along on this interesting bumbling adventure. I'm really glad we got at least one of the SunPCis working, got Windows 98 installed, and that install seems really snappy, really good. Might have to put that to use in the future. That's going to do it for this one. If you really want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. I'm on my way to 100,000 subscribers, and I'm also on Patreon. I post behind the scenes type videos, and you also get access to the SPARC-based Discord. Thanks once again. I'll catch you in the next video.